Hello viewers, this is Umbra Racing here, and welcome to the channel. So we're kicking off Race 4 at the Mosport Arrive and Drive Kart Racing League. This is June 30th of 2024, and we're actually doing our heat races again for this configuration of the track on this day. So for the first part of this video, I'm actually borrowing some footage from a good buddy that I met at the track. It goes by the name of Burning Rubber. I recommend checking out his channel. I'll link it in the description, but he's got some great Insta360 footage of these races, so I recommend checking him out. But the reason why I'm borrowing some footage is because I stupidly didn't record the first heat. I thought that I was recording, but I wasn't apparently. And this was a pretty good race for Heat 1. I started off pretty strong, started off in P2, and then ended up leading the pack in P1 for a couple laps. Had some good battles between me and Burning Rubber. And you can see we get some good footage of this driver here overtaking Burning Rubber through the bowl, and then getting himself into P2. This guy ended up becoming a pretty fierce competitor later on in the day. As we come down the back straight and then into the S's, you can see he manages to gain quite a bit of time on me into that braking zone as we round the final corner here into the start-stop straight. There's a bit of a drag race here down the start-stop straight into turn 1, but at the end of this race I managed to finish in P2, which was a pretty good start to the day, that I'd say. So it was a pretty good race. My buddy kind of makes a similar mistake that I made in the race in the previous weekend here. But yeah, this was a pretty good start to the day, and it felt really good. So I guess we'll just jump into race 2 here. Heat 2, I should say. So rolling out of the pits here to start the formation lap for the Heat 2 race. You'll notice that the positions have been shuffled, as per usual. So I am starting towards the back of the pack this time around. I'm currently in P10, and I believe there are about 12 drivers total for this race. So that's where things get a bit interesting here, since I'm typically not the biggest fan of starting towards the back or even towards the middle. Mainly because things can get a bit scrappy, since there is quite a bit of traffic that you have to wade through if you have pace. And it does lend itself to a bit of carnage if you're not careful as well. But I do suppose that is the challenge, and of course the goal when you're starting towards the back of the pack. You do have to try to filter your way up through the grid as cleanly as possible. Try to get as many overtakes as you can to try to solidify your starting position for the final race. So that is of course the goal here, to try to get on some good footing for the final. So as we come through the start-stop straight here, we get the green flag, and the race is a go. So you'll notice that there's a driver directly in front of me wearing the Mercedes F1 AMG racing suit. And that's actually one of my very good buddies that I've been doing this race with weekend after weekend. And it was honestly very refreshing. We had a pretty good battle all throughout this race, which you'll see later on. But it was definitely some good fun to have some good competitive racing between me and him. But as we come through the top of the hill and make our way into the bowl, you can see that the race is kicking off. Drivers going too wide into the corners. If you take a look at the driver in the red and black suit, he just runs wide a little bit, gets on the dirt. I try to make an overtake there, but he didn't really give me a whole lot of space there. I don't think he knew I was there, but there's a little bit of contact, but nothing too severe. No wiping each other out or anything like that, so just gotta try to make my way past him. I tried to make an overtake here, but I didn't really have the necessary speed to get past, so decided to just bide my time a little bit, maybe make a move on the straight here. So you can see my buddy is having a bit of a drag race between him and that driver in the white suit there. That guy was a very quick driver. You can see coming into turn 1, he makes a very nice switchback on him and takes the position. And then now at this point, I'm now 3 wide going into turn 2. Some really good racing here. No contact. I get a bit of a better launch through the exit of turn 2 and then make a nice double overtake up through the straight, up to the top of the hill here. So now, after claiming 2 positions there, my goal is of course set on my buddy, trying to reel him back in and try to make an overtake. I drive a pretty clean line through the bowl now, not getting any loss of grip through the entry of that corner this time around, which was very good. So coming down to the back straight and then into the S's. You can see I gain a little bit of time, have a little bit of a better exit. Right now, much closer to him, now onto the start-stop straight here. And we're now onto the final lap. You can see that these heats are very short. So coming into turn 1, You can see I get just a bit of a better line here. So now I'm right on the back of my buddy here. So now I'm relying on the slipstream up through the top of the hill to try to make a move. I run a little bit wide, get onto the rumble strips, which that did slow me down ever so slightly. It's coming up through the top. Get a little bit of a better exit, and now I'm like right on the back of him here. So right onto the bull, get a good out-in, out line here, hugging the apex there and getting right on the back of him. Try to make an overtake here. I do get the position a little bit, but he just gets a little bit of a better launch. So I surrender the position to him here on the back straight. So slotting in, trying to get some slipstream, and then right into the S's. Get really close onto him, and then right on the final corner, I get a little bit of a better exit than him here at this point, and yeah, we both give each other props on the way to the finish line. And I managed to get P7. I managed to just kind of inch my way past him at the final part of the race here. And overall, that was some really good racing. It was a lot of fun. And as a result of all of that, with this P7 finish and my P2 finish from the first heat, that's actually going to start me off in P5 for the final. So let's jump into that. So on to the final race of the day as we roll out of the pits here to start our formation lap. I gotta say, this race really had my blood pumping because I was in a very similar position to this during race 4 a couple weekends ago. And after having that absolutely dreadful result at the end of the final race on that day, I was really trying my best to make up for that and just get a very solid position this time around. And after analyzing precisely what went wrong during the corner in that previous race, I really felt a lot more confidence coming into this race here, to where I could just try to drive as fast as I could without being too conservative or being too worried about making any errors, making any crucial errors, or spinning out on that corner. I just felt overall really good all throughout the day, and especially during the final race here. So as a result of that, I felt as if there was definitely some contention to get a podium finish here. So I had my sights set upon P3 as we come down the start-stop straight and wait for the green flag, and the race is a go. So making our way down into turn 1, trying to keep the group as tight as possible here, up towards the overtaking pylons. I try to make a move, pulling sideways, a bit of a drag race into turn 1. I try to make a switchback here, but he did hug the apex pretty tightly there. So making another move here, he sort of drops back on the straight here, so I managed to make an overtake on P4. So now I'm up into P4, and P3 is not that far ahead. So at this point, I just had my eyes glued onto P3, and just figured that if I could just drive as cleanly as possible, try to get some good lap times, I should be able to catch up. So at this point, making our way down into the back straight, coming down into the S's, you can see that I'm getting closer and closer to them. I felt as if I was a little bit stronger, maybe getting a couple tenths out of them on the S's there. So on to lap 2 now. Rounding turn 1. Getting a pretty decent line here, so you can see P3 and P2 going 2 abreast into turn 2, slowing each other down ever so slightly. I get a decent line out of turn 2, and then now I'm just trying to slot back into the slipstream. I think I might be a little bit too far back to benefit from it, but it would appear that I'm getting closer and closer. So now into the bowl. Getting a decent line through the bowl here. So you can see I'm checking my back here to make sure that there's nobody behind me trying to pressure for an overtake. And the drivers from P5 onward were actually pretty far back at this point. So right now it was kind of just a race between myself and the 3 drivers up ahead here. So it was good to know that I didn't really have to focus too much on my back here. So you can see that they actually kind of make their way a little bit further ahead of me. I think they might have gotten a better exit out of the final corner. So at this point, I'm just trying to chip away as best as I can. Coming down into turn 2, I managed to get a lap time of a 104.0, which was not too bad. So up through the top of the hill, smashing the apex nicely there. And then coming out into the bowl. You can see, I think I made a tiny bit of an error there. I got a little bit of a spin there. Or not a spin, but I lost a little bit of a grip as I was coming out through the bowl there. So you can see the distance does expand a little bit more. I think I lost maybe like a tenth or two through the bowl. So coming through the S's here again. And then ending off lap 3, I managed to get 103.5, which was not too bad. That was actually pretty good pace, considering that the lap times all throughout the day were pretty competitive. Like, I believe 103s were a pretty high bar to get. I think when I started my Heat 1 race, I did get like a 105. I think it was like a high 105, 105.6 or something like that. And then, of course, Heat 2, I managed to chip away a whole second off of that. Managed to get like a low 104. And 103 was pretty impressive by my standards, I'd say, for this race here, to compete against these podium drivers right here. So coming down into the back straight, and then coming through the S's once again, you can see that P2 and P3, P3 just makes a very daring move on P2, manages to overtake and get up into P2. As a result, they kind of slowed each other down a bit, so I was really happy when I saw that. I managed to set a faster lap time, which was a 103.1, which was pretty good. That ended up being the second fastest lap time of this race, which was pretty good. I think I was only beaten by one of the drivers up ahead, which set like a 103.0. So you could see that my pace was actually pretty decent. I felt as if I could definitely catch up to them. You can see P3 is very close at this point. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut this video short because my camera mount unfortunately kind of dislodged again this time around. I don't think it was as tight as possible, as tight as I could get it, so the camera does kind of like drop down. But basically what ended up happening here was I wasn't able to catch up to P3. I was getting closer and closer by the time, you know, lap 5 and lap 6 hit, but I ended up finishing in P4, which I was very happy about that result. That was my best result that I've had, like, all throughout the racing season so far. P4 was really good, and I was just glad to see that my pace has been improving. So that was definitely a good sign. Potentially, maybe I could fight for a podium in one of the future races. That's definitely my goal right now. But overall, this was a very solid day, and I was very happy with the result. It definitely made up for the previous weekend. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all later. See you in the next one. Take care.